It's a working man I am, and I've been down underground, and I swear to God, if I ever see the sun, or for any length of time, I can hold it in my mind, I never again will go down underground. At the age of 16 years, it's the heart afraid of breaking that never learns to dance. It's the dream afraid of waking that never takes the chance. It's the one.
All good. Life is just a stepping stone, a pause before we make it home, a simple place to rest and be until we reach eternity. Everyone has a life journey, a path to take with lots to see. God guides our steps along the way, but we were never meant to stay. Our final destination is a place filled with love, His majesty and grace. Today we celebrate the life of a loved one who has gone before us. The race she has run. Her journey has now ended. Her spirit has ascended, claiming the great reward with Jesus our Lord. Welcome, family and friends, and those watching via live stream. Thank you for your presence today as we honour and remember with sorrow, but also with respect, joy and thankfulness for the life of our dear Jean, who sadly passed away on Saturday the 29th of July 23 at the amazing age of 94. My name is Jude McNabb, and it is an honour and a privilege to have been asked to officiate Jean's service. On behalf of Malcolm and Barb, David and Andrea, Karen and Ken, Judy and David and their families, we thank you for your support and kindness during this sad time. It is this kindness that helps to ease the pain of losing a much-loved mother, mother-in-law, nana, nanny, great-nana, auntie, cousin, and dearly treasured friend. Following Jean's service, you are warmly invited to share more memories over afternoon tea and refreshments in the Leishman's Lounge across from here. Today we grieve for the thoughts of Jean foremost in our minds. Her passing has brought sorrow to her family and friends, particularly as the ties of love and friendship were so strong. As we think of her passing with sadness, we should remember her life with respect and happiness. Nothing can detract from the happiness and closeness you all shared with her, and nothing can change your love for her and her love for you. This love can never be altered by time, circumstance, or death. Be grateful that Jean was a part of your lives. It is now my privilege to share with you the life of Jean Isabel Leonard. Born in Balclutha on the 25th of January 1929 to proud parents Isabella and Ivan Mosley. Much loved younger sister to brothers Ken and Jim, Jean had a very close relationship with her brothers, who were very protective of her and looked out for her well-being. They affectionately called her Susie. Growing up on Inchclutha, Jean enjoyed being brought up on the farm. A love for the outdoors and animals, particularly helping her dad milking cows. Her mum would have much preferred her to be indoors helping with the household chores, but every chance Jean could get, those gumboots were on and off she would go out on the farm. Attending Stirling Primary School followed by South Otago High, Jean enjoyed the years in school. Quite the academic, she excelled in this, and this would be a testament to the jobs she worked in. On leaving school, Jean worked as a shorthand typist for the lawyer J.T. Walter. Following this, she worked as a personal secretary for the town clerk, Mr. Fryer. Some days Jean would travel to work from Inchclutha to Balclutha on horseback. In those days there was a paddock where the town hall now stands, and her horse would stay there until the end of the day's work and be ridden home again. On other occasions, brother Jim would taxi Jean to work in one of his flash cars as he worked at Wilson Elliott's. Kaka Point Beach was always a favourite to Jean. Many fond memories were told of being taken there as a child with her brothers and father. Her mum often opting out as a wind-swept beach and sand wasn't her thing. A love for netball saw Jean become a rep player, and what a good player she was. She may not have been the tallest player in the team, but she sure was a strong defence. Many a game was played at home and away, and when playing at home and for practices, Jean would bike from Inchclutha to Balclutha to play. During some of her weekends, Jean would visit Jim's auntie, who just lived down the road from where the Leonards lived. On one particular visit, a young man by the name of Jim Leonard turned up to visit as well, which was quite a coincidence. Turns out Jim's dad had suggested he visit as there was a lovely young lady down there. A romance blossomed, and as the saying goes, the rest is history. On the 24th of May 1952, Jean and Jim married at the Stirling Church, and even though it was a very cold day and had been snowing, Jean was quoted to say that this was the best days of their lives. A honeymoon in Kaka Point followed by a week's holiday staying in a luxury hotel in Christchurch. In those days, going on a holiday like that was very special and something you would rarely do. Jim carried the receipt of the stay in his wallet for many years later. The newlyweds' first home was the Rose Cottage on Inchclutha down by the river. It had a beautiful garden, and Jean loved her wee cottage and starting a new life as a wife. With her love of animals, she had a loyal companion in her lassie dog, who was a wedding present to her and Jim. Being so close to the river, Jean would go out and catch a fish to cook for Jim for breakfast. Many, many special memories were created. They would stay in Rose Cottage until around 1953 before moving to the main farm where Jim took over running it, and here they would stay. Life was great, and then in November 1954 they welcomed Malcolm into the Leonard family, followed by David in May 1957, Karen in April 1962, and Judy in August 1963. And a great mum she was. She was so proud of her children as they grew and followed their chosen careers. She welcomed Barb, Andrea, Ken and David into the Leonard family with open arms. In 1983, Jean became a nana to Rebecca, followed by Michelle in 1985, Caleb in 1986, Michael and Jason in 1988, Christy in 1990, Charles and Nicola in 1991, Richard in 1995, Matthew in 1996, and Craig in 1999. As the years went by, Jean would welcome 8 great-grandchildren. She loved her grandchildren dearly, and when they visited, it wouldn't be long and they would be in the kitchen with Nana baking. Such a great cook and baker, you never went hungry when visiting the Leonards. One of her specialties was the roast rabbit and stuffing that she perfectly cooked, thanks to Jim having been out hunting for rabbits. And of course, the amazing roast meals and veggie soup were very popular. And we cannot forget the famous sponge cakes Jean made. When it came to the church fair, most of her sponges were sold before the fair thanks to pre-orders. Jean had an extremely sweet tooth, and her children often remembered the fresh Russian fudge in the safe. Chocolate and sweets could always be found hidden around the house. In later years, Jean would take a plate to bed with an assortment of chocolate, sweets, and of course, a little bit of fruit to keep it healthy. Even though Jean was the best at cooking the traditional farm meals, she loved to try new recipes. Being nice and handy to the supermarket, she would frequently go down and buy the required ingredients to whip up a new cuisine. Many a time, if you tried to get hold of Jean, the famous one-liner was quoted, "She's down the street." If she wasn't buying ingredients, she would be checking out the latest fashion on offer. Everyone who knew Jean knew that she loved to shop. There was always room for another nice, trendy, colourful skirt or top. Jean also loved her new gadgets, whether it be a food processor, bread maker, TV, computer or motor vehicle. The newest and latest was always the best. When Jean and Jim moved to the farm at North Balclutha, they lived in the old villa for a couple of years. They then built the 3-bedroom brick family home that would remain in the Leonard name to this day. Right up till April 23, this was Jean's home. And as mentioned earlier, Jean's love of animals was a big part of her life. Whether it was a horse riding, working with the cows on the dairy farm, dogs, cats, pet sparrow, and magpie, to name a few. And I must mention here, the magpie was very protective of Jean. If you were to visit Jean, you almost needed to have a helmet on to get inside, as the magpie would swoop on everyone who was going anywhere near Jean. One particular pet that was a favourite would be Goatus the goat. Goatus was rescued by Malcolm, who had shot the mother while out hunting in the Nevis. He brought this baby kid home in his backpack, and from the day Jean laid eyes on the little goat, she claimed him as her own. And what a spoilt goat he was. He would climb up and look in the window and watch Jean working in the kitchen. Jean would also let him inside, and Goatus would go into the kitchen, open the cupboard door, nudge the Tupperware container out that had Jean's yummy homemade biscuits in, and Jean would open it up and feed Goatus. Goatus even went on a trip to Mannaboyne Dam while the family went skating when he was very little. Jim even prepared and took with him a thermos of hot milk for the extra passenger. Very spoiled, I would say. And we can't forget Jean's love of cats throughout her life. Growing up, there were up to 3 cats at a time for her to pamper. Mothery, Candy and Cindy were probably the 3 that managed to avoid the busy main road by the farm that claimed so many. Despite the danger of the road, Jean had lovely pet cats right throughout her time on the farm, and she adored them all. Jean was a very good machine knitter, and Malcolm, David, Karen and Judy remember these jerseys well. Memories of bright coloured jerseys that they each got to wear. Malcolm remembers too well the bright orange jersey with the bold green stripe he was given. He never did wear that jersey, and from all accounts, he never got another one. The Leonards enjoyed many holidays over the years in the caravans. At the end of January each year, once the farm work was all up to date, they would travel to the Alexandra camping ground and camp for 2 weeks. This was the chosen campground as it had a walk-in freezer, which was just ideal for this farming family who took all their food with them. The boys would stay in a 9x9 tent and the girls in the awning of the caravan. Lots of fun and friendships created. In 1988, after many years of creating memories, holidaying in the caravans, Jean and Jim swapped holidaying in caravans and purchased a holiday house in Queenstown. It may have taken a bit of convincing Jim to make this purchase, but once he saw the view of the Remarkables from the holiday house, he was sold on the idea. They enjoyed many more years getting away and having a break. Even up until January this year, Jean was still enjoying spending time in Queenstown. Jean loved to play cards, and even until recently, she was still playing. She looked forward to playing bridge and 500, and every Monday afternoon she would be off to the club rooms to meet up with her friends and enjoy the companionship and a game or 2 of cards. For many, many years, Jean was part of the club night. This was a group of 10 high school friends who made a pact to stay together through life's adventures and meet up monthly to check in on each other. When they were younger and before children, it would be an afternoon get-together. When children arrived, the group moved to monthly evening meetings. Each would take a turn at hosting in their homes. Jean's children remember well having to help to tidy up when it was Jean's turn to host. The best friendships were within this group. On the 29th of July 23, club night had ceased, with the last living member being Jean to call it the end. Jean and Jim's faith in the church saw them attending church each Sunday. When they met each other, Jim was part of the Salvation Army and Jean was involved with the Presbyterian Church. Not long after, Jim would become part of the Presbyterian Church and would become an elder. As their family grew, they continued to go to church and Sunday school. Jean and Jim had a wonderful marriage, creating many happy memories. They celebrated their 60th wedding anniversary and were only 1 month away from being married for 61 years when Jim sadly passed away. Jean loved to follow sport, whether it was the All Blacks, Silver Ferns or other sporting fixtures. Quite often she would let her children know when a game was on and she knew exactly what time and what channel. Family and friends, how lucky are you to have had the honour to call Jean your mum, mother-in-law, auntie, cousin, nana, great nana, and dear friend. She was so very proud of you all and your achievements. Hold on to your special memories and treasure them. Jean, we have only but touched a snippet of your incredible life you had. Thank you for everything you've ever done in our lives. Thank you for giving us the strength to go through life and succeed even when times weren't easy. Thank you for all your wisdom, advice, love and guidance. We will never forget the lessons you've taught us. The people we are today is all because of everything you have done for us. We'll miss you, love you and never forget you. I would now like to invite Jean's grandson Charles to come forward and share a tribute. And if anyone else would like to come up after Charles, you're most welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Barb. Whether it was on the farm or in the kitchen, Nana could always be found in her pinny. Some of our fondest memories on the farm as kids were always at tailing time, working as a family. Mum, Dad, Jason, myself, Richard, Uncle David, Nana and Grandad were the core team for many years. Nana would always be dressed in her pinny, and she'd have the job of scratching the lambs, which she did with decisive efficiency. Nana loved to cook, which was convenient because the Blair boys loved to eat. Time with Nana always involved helping in the kitchen, baking biscuits or bread. If you can't tell by Jason's waistline, he took to the baking a bit more than Richard and I. And one day, being the diligent grandson that he was, hard-working man, was helping Nana bake some chocolate chip biscuits. Standing on the stool with that at that pull-out chopping board, if you can all remember that, in Nana's kitchen. I was sitting on the TV, being not much use at all, sitting on the couch watching TV, being not much use at all, and Richard was being a general nuisance, as usual. And I just remember him coming tearing down the hallway at a full rate of knots with whatever he was excited about on this particular day, and clearly wasn't watching where he went, and collected himself on the pull-out chopping board. Well, what a thud that made. Nana, very concerned, straight to his aid, checked that he was okay. And luckily there was no blood, but I think there was a pretty swift smack to the backside to get him, tell him to watch where he was going after that. Yeah. Homemade bread was also a big hit with the Blair boys. And when Nana got her bread maker, she used to often make bread in the afternoon, and the loaf would be left sitting on the bench, just cooling until it was cool enough to be cut up. Well, we sort of worked that out pretty quick, and would get in there and pick away underneath where the kneader goes into the bread, and soon pick out pretty much the entirety of the loaf of bread before Nana even knew. And there was the crust just left sitting on the bench. Nana didn't like that too much either. Now, we all know Nana loves a gadget, as been said already today, but being a grandchild living 200 metres down the road, this was a bit of a curse. Jason, Richard and myself were often called upon in the early days to fix the tape recorder so that she could record The Young and the Restless. Things got slightly more advanced with a DVD player with a built-in recorder, and then followed by My Sky, all of them requiring us to go up there and give detailed instructions on how to use it, of which Nana, being the diligent student that she is, took pages and pages and pages of notes, always on the back of an envelope, and they'd never be seen again. We'd always have to go back up again the next week to sort it out. Unfortunately for Nana, she also had a bit of a habit of falling asleep in the rocking chair, looking somewhat like a cast sheep. One day after school, Jason and I called on Nana to find her asleep in her chair, mouth wide open, snoring away. I'm sure you all know the look. Jason seized the opportunity, quickly snapping a photo on Nana's digital camera and saving it as and saving it as the screensaver on Nana's computer. Well, later that night, Mum gets a very, very abrupt call from Nana, and the boys were immediately sent up to the house to fix what they had done. She definitely didn't like that one. Nana, you're gone from our presence, but not from our hearts. We'll always remember you for spoiling us with your sweet treats, your hearty lunch meals with mountains of potatoes for Grandad, and keeping Grandad in check. Your memory will live on forever. We love you, Nana.
Well done, Charles. It's a hard act to follow. We're all here today to remember Jean, the Jean Machine. These were names we called our parents, friendly nicknames. Her husband Jim got called Henry. Was that Henry Fonda who rode the Honda? It could be a rhyme. David started it, but I kept it up. Jean was named after her mother's sister. And Jean comes under the group of names Jane, being Hebrew meaning God's gracious gift. And sometimes I heard Henry called Jean, Jane, or Janie. When I first started going out with Malcolm, it seems I was a Sunday girl, like another Leonard bride. Anyway, we'd been going out for some time, and Malcolm said, "Would you like to come and meet my family?" As at this stage, I only knew of David. I think Malcolm was tired, and he was sick of driving around, which we did in those days. So we duly turned up late one Sunday afternoon, no announcement or forewarning that we were coming. To arrive into the Leonard's kitchen to find Jean kneeling on her knees on the floor with her head in the oven, pinny on, gloves on, and scrubbing the inside of the oven. She was so embarrassed. Henry hovering around trying to make me feel welcome, and anyway, at least Malcolm could have done was warn them. Never mind, it went well and we got tea. I think it was macaroni cheese. And as the saying goes, the rest is history. They said I could call them mum or dad, but I already had my own mum or dad. And Jim and Jean sort of was a wee bit hard, so it became Nanny Jean when Rebecca came along, because Malcolm's nanny was still alive, and we didn't want to confuse Rebecca. So rather than have a nana and a nanny and a gran, it became Nanny Jean, Nanny Margaret, Grandad, and Grandad Henry. So Henry said that I would probably rue the day that I called him Henry, because I gave him a book one Christmas, and in it I wrote, "To Henry." And I, being a genealogist, should know that's not a good idea to muck people's names up like that. Anyway, he took it in good stead and always answered to Henry. And I remember an occasion that he was at somebody's wedding and there was a Henry there, and Henry answered, but it wasn't him. So I also recall a story that Henry told me when he was dating Jean, who took her to the pictures at Kaitankata. The closest I ever got to it was a drive-by when it was painted purple. Anyway, Jean was settled in her seat and she asked Henry for his coat. Poor Jean, thought Jim, she's cold. He passes over his coat to her, which she duly folds up and sits on. Henry was horrified and could not believe she was sitting on his coat, and so much so he couldn't concentrate on the movie. I really love that story. I'd like to pass on my own family's condolences to the family, and I'd like to read a card from our neighbour who's recently lost her husband, Margaret Watt. Dear Barb and Malk, Jean lived a long life and you were lucky to have her for so long. She and Jim worked hard on the farm together, Jean with her pinny on, one child in the pram, one on the Pam seat, one running around. They were always on for a chat and a laugh. My thoughts are with you all today. Rest in peace, Jean.
Well, I'd like to thank the family for inviting me to be here at this farewell for their dearly loved mother and grandmother. And above all, to thank them for caring for Jeannie so devotedly in the later years of her life. No one could have had a more loving, attentive family. I'm in a slightly strange but very special position. You see, I've known Jeannie, as I've always called her, for all but 5 years of my life. And longer, of course, than any of her immediate family. I may be wrong, but I think that here today there is only one person who has known her longer, and that is our very dear Auntie Mavis, who I know will miss Jeannie especially keenly. You see, I was flower girl at Jeannie and Uncle Jim's wedding. I still have the little lemon organza dress I wore hanging in my wardrobe. It is fragile and a bit crumbly now, like many of us, I guess. But every now and again I pull it out. I wish I could say I could remember more of that day. I do recall being very worried in the days leading up to the wedding that my front tooth would come out. But of the day itself, my clearest memories are of shaking confetti from my dress when I went to bed, and of blue flowers, I think they must have been anemones, in my little gilded flower basket. As fragmentary as they are precious memories to have. Other early childhood memories I have of Jeannie all seem to involve cats. Jeannie always had cats she was devoted to, and they also involve cakes. As others have commented, Jeannie was a wonderful baker, and afternoon tea with her was always a special treat. As I grew older, she and Uncle Jim were always there, part of the very fabric of my life. Caring, always interested in what I was doing, generous and unfadingly kind. And time spent with them were very jolly indeed. At no time did their kindness show more than when my father passed away. He was devoted to his little sister, and she to him. I really don't know how my mother would have coped immediately after he left us without their support. It was a token, I guess, of the deep understanding they had of each other, and of course their shared affection for my father. So, for all of us here today, in different ways, an era has come to an end. It's hard not to be overwhelmed by sadness, but it's the last thing that Jeannie would have wanted. She would have wanted us to come together as a family, to support each other, and to enjoy each other's company, and that's exactly what we are doing. Rest in peace, our dear Jeannie.
Some very wonderful memories, and we'll be able to share some more shortly over a cup of tea. We'll now watch a photo tribute that was lovingly put together by Jean's family. This is a time for us to reflect on the special memories we have of Jean. While a picture may be worth 1,000 words, it captures a very specific memory. It will remind you of the time spent, and places visited, and feelings felt.
It must have been cold there in my shadow to never have sunlight on your face. You were content to let me shine, that's your way. You always walked a step behind. So I was the one with all the glory, while you were the one with all the strength. A beautiful face without a can fly higher than an eagle. You are the wind beneath my wings. It might have appeared to go unnoticed, but I've got it all here in my heart. I want you to know I know the truth. Of course I know you. I would be nothing without you. Did you ever know that you're my hero? You're everything I wish I could be. I could fly higher than an eagle. For you are the wind beneath my wings. Did I ever tell you you're my hero? You're everything, everything I wish I could be. Oh, and I can fly higher than an eagle. 'Cause you are the wind beneath my wings. Oh, the wind beneath my wings. Fly, fly away. You let me fly so high.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. 'Twas grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my fears relieved. How precious did that grace appear the hour I first believed. When we've been there 10,000 years, bright shining as the sun, we've no less days to sing God's praise than when we first begun. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Spend all your time waiting for that second chance, for a break that would make it okay. There's always some reason to feel not good enough, and it's hard at the end of the day. I need some distraction. Oh, beautiful release. Memories seep through my veins. Let me be empty. Oh, weightless, and maybe I'll find some peace tonight. In the arms of the angel, fly away from here, from this dark, cold hotel room, and the endlessness that you fear. You are pulled from the wreckage of your silent reverie. You're in the arms of the angel. May you find some comfort here. So tired of the straight line, and everywhere you turn, there's vultures and thieves at your back. The storm keeps on twisting. You keep on building the lies that you make up for all that you lack. It don't make no difference. Escape one last time. It's easier to believe in this sweet madness, all this glorious sadness that brings me to my knees. In the arms of the angel, fly away from here, from this dark, cold hotel room, and the endlessness that you fear. You are pulled from the wreckage of your silent reverie. You're in the arms of the angel. May you find some comfort here. You're in the arms of the angel. May you find some comfort here.
It has now come time for us to say our farewell to Jean, a lady who was strong-willed, very loving, caring and affectionate. Her life was characterised by strength, dignity, courage and achievement. She truly made a difference in the lives of many. All of us who were privileged to have known Jean found that she gave life strength, substance and spirit to everyone around her. Her legacy of kindness, love, and commitment will live on in our hearts and memories forever. Please stand. I have a place that waits for me, a place I love, where angels sing and rejoice all day, and children laugh, run, and play. Here the Master holds my hand as we walk through heaven's land. This is the place I have dreamed of for so long, so beautiful, so heavenly like the angel's song. As this day of sorrow comes, tears in our eyes, loneliness in our hearts, we say goodbye. Thank you, Jean, for sharing your life with us, for you are a beautiful blessing in our eyes. We thank the Lord for sharing your life with us. He has given us a great gift that we will never forget. Earth to earth, ashes to ashes, dust to dust. In the spirit of love we meet, in the spirit of love we depart.
Didn't know today would be our last, or that I'd have to say goodbye to you so fast. I'm so numb I can't feel anymore. I'm praying you just walk back through that door and tell me that I was only dreaming. You're not really gone as long as I believe. There will be another angel around the throne tonight. Your love lives on inside of me, and I will hold on tight. It's not my place to question, only God knows why. I'm just jealous of the angels around the throne tonight. Always made my troubles feel so small, and you were always there to catch me when I'd fall. In a world where heroes come and go, well, God just took the only one I know. So I'll hold you as close as I can, longing for the day when I see your face again. But until then, God must need another angel around the throne tonight. Your love lives on inside of me, and I will hold on tight. It's not my place to question, only God knows why. I'm just jealous of the angels around the throne tonight, singing hallelujah. Just jealous of the angels around the throne tonight. Didn't know today would be our last, or that I'd have to say goodbye to you so fast. I'm so numb I can't feel anymore. I'm praying you just walk back through that door and tell me that I was only dreaming. You're not really gone as long as I believe. There will be another angel around the throne tonight. Your love lives on inside of me, and I will hold on tight. It's not my place to question